So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a story that's hiding in plain sight. It's a story you're a part of every single day, but you've probably never actually stopped to read it. Let's jump in.
Okay, so picture this. It all starts with a pretty simple search. You've got some time to kill, you're feeling curious, maybe you want to learn about something epic, right? So you type in something like this. You hit enter, and you're just expecting a bunch of videos about ancient warriors. Simple as that.
But what if I told you that the real story isn't the one you're looking for? What if while you're searching for a story about the past, there's a much more important story happening right now on this very page, a story that's all about you?
And to find it, you don't have to look very far. All you have to do is scroll down. Past all the videos, past the recommended section, way down to the very bottom. Because that's where you find them. The laws of this digital land, the unspoken rules you agree to just by being here.
And this is where it gets kind of interesting. The Spartans you were searching for, they lived by this intense code of duty and sacrifice. Well, you, the person doing the searching, you're also living by a code. It's just a digital one, and it's governed by things called terms and privacy policy and safety. Let's just quickly break that down. When you see that little word, terms, that's not just some legal jargon to ignore. That is a binding legal contract. The moment you use the search bar, you basically signed on the dotted line.
And what about privacy policy and safety? Well, that's the fine print of the contract. It spells out exactly what happens to your personal information, what you search for, the videos you watch, all of it. It's the rulebook for how your data is collected, how it's used, and, in theory, how it's protected.
So yeah, these little links at the bottom of the page, they're not just suggestions. They are the digital constitution for this entire world. And with every single search you make, you're agreeing to live by its rules. Okay, so if we've got laws, that means someone has to be making them, right? So who are these unseen rule makers? Who's actually in charge here and controlling the very narrative you came here to find?
Well, a giant piece of that puzzle comes down to one powerful word: copyright. This is the legal right that literally decides who owns the story of the Spartans you were looking for. It determines who can show it to you, and, maybe more importantly, who gets to profit from it.
And who are these rule makers? Well, you can kind of find their front office, if you will, right there in the footer. About, press, contact us. These are the public doorways to the very powerful entities that are running this entire operation. All right, so we have laws and we have lawmakers. But how does that story about 300 Spartans actually get from someone's idea into a video that lands right on your screen? It turns out it's all part of this massive, incredibly well-oiled machine we can call the content engine.
The easiest way to think about it is like a big stage production, really. First, you've got the developers, and they build the stage itself. Then, the creators, the people who actually make the videos, they come on and perform the play. Advertisers show up to pay for the whole show. And you're the audience they're all here for.
And these three groups are absolutely essential: creators, advertisers, and developers. Think of them as the three main pillars holding up the entire roof. You take away any one of them, and this whole system that brings you content just, well, it falls apart.
But here's the thing. This engine, this whole system, it's not static. It is constantly changing, being updated, getting tweaked. You ever see that little invitation to test new features? That's not just a friendly offer. It's a reminder that you're part of a living, breathing experiment that's always evolving. You know when you see a phrase like "how YouTube works"? It's easy to read it as a question, but it's not. It's a statement. It's the title of the owner's manual for this vast, incredibly complex, and very intentionally designed system that you are now operating in. So let's put all these pieces together. Let's finally get to the ultimate answer we've been digging for. The real story that was just waiting for you at the bottom of the page this whole time. So think about the journey. It all kicked off with your simple search query. That one action woke up the entire engine, the creators, the advertisers, the developers, and that whole interaction from start to finish was governed by the law, the terms, and the copyright. It's a perfect, self-contained loop.
So it's kind of funny when you think about it. You came here looking for the story of an ancient kingdom, a place with its own laws, its own rulers, its own citizens.
And in the process, you were interacting with and participating in a modern one. A digital kingdom with its very own laws, its own economy, and of course, its own rulers. And you know, every kingdom has to have a sovereign, right? A final authority. Well, in this digital world, that ultimate power, that ownership, is represented by this one simple but all-powerful little symbol.
And there it is. The final word. Right at the bottom of the page, the name of the ultimate ruler of this entire domain, the entity that owns the platform, writes the laws, and holds the final, undeniable copyright.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. The next time you go to search for a story, any story at all, just take a second and ask yourself, who is really telling it? The person you see on the screen or the invisible kingdom you're standing in?